Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video we had discussed about chapter 7 of the Indian Evidence Act of 1872. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. In today's video, we are going to discuss about Chapter 8 of the Indian Evidence Act. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand the substance therein. So if you're new here, please like and subscribe to my channel to get the video notifications. So let's get started. So in this video, we are going to talk about Chapter 8, which deals with estoppel. It is a very small chapter and it deals with only one topic. It is based on 3 sections that talk about the same thing, that is estoppel. Now what does estoppel mean? Estoppel means basically that you cannot show different faces at different times, which means there is said to be an estoppel where a party is not allowed to say that a certain statement of facts is untrue, whether in reality it is true or not. Estoppel or conclusion, as it is frequently called by the elder authorities, may therefore be defined as a disability whereby a party is precluded from alleging or proving legal proceedings that a fact is otherwise than it has been made to appear by the matter giving rise to that disability. So basically, when a person gives an evidence or he provides his evidence as a witness, then whatever he has said, that will be final. He at a later stage of trial cannot deny what he has said earlier. The doctrine of estoppel applies in cases affecting rights. Estoppel can be described as rule of creating or defeating rights. Though estoppel is described as merely rule of evidence, it may have effect of creating substantive rights as against person estopped. Estoppel, while enable a party against another party to claim right of property, which in fact he did not possess, is described as estoppel by negligence or by conduct or by representation or by holding out ostensible authority. Estoppel may itself be foundation of right as against the person estopped. So what is the nature of estoppel? Estoppel is often described as a rule of evidence, but the whole concept is more correctly viewed as a substantive rule of law. Now, how many types of estoppels are there? There are mainly 4 kinds of estoppel. That is estoppel by matter of record or quasi-record, estoppel by deed, estoppel in pais, which is estoppel by conduct, and estoppel by election. Now you can read about all of these from any reference book. We will skip the discussion and move on with the chapter. So section 115 says, when one person has by his declaration, act or omission intentionally caused or permitted another person to believe a thing to be true and to act upon such belief. So basically what happens is that a person has either declared something or has done such an act or has refrained from doing an act. That means he has committed any omission. So whether by declaration, act or omission, that person has intentionally caused or permitted another person to believe a particular thing to be true. It might be a statement, it might be anything else. To believe that such thing is true and to act upon such belief. So that other person believing such thing to be true has acted upon such belief. That person who has by such declaration, act or omission intentionally caused that person to believe something, neither he can or nor his representative can or shall be allowed in any suit or proceedings between himself and such other person or his representative to deny the truth of that thing. So later on he cannot deny the truth of that thing which he made believe to that other person. So that is the rule of estoppel. Now while we talk about estoppel, we must also understand that there is a difference between estoppel and res judicata. Now we will read about res judicata when we go through the provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure, but for now we must understand the difference, that estoppel prevents a person from saying one thing at one time and retreating from it at another time. while res judicata prevents the jurisdiction on the subject matter that is already decided by a competent court on the same issue between the same parties. So that is a entirely different thing. Also, estoppel is a rule of equity. Res judicata is a rule of legal procedure. Estoppel is based on the rule of equity, justice, and good conscience, while res judicata is based on public policy. Estoppel originates from representation or conduct of the party. Res judicata originates from decision of court. Estoppel prevents a person to rebut what has been represented by him. Res judicata prevents the court to hear a case which has already been decided by court of competent jurisdiction. Estoppel shuts the mouth of parties. Res judicata shuts or prevents the jurisdiction of court. Rule of estoppel is laid down under section 115 of Evidence Act, while the rule regarding res judicata is laid down under section 11 of CPC. Estoppel can be inferred from the conduct of the parties. Res judicata is claimed on the basis of previous decision of competent court. So that is the basic distinction between the estoppel and the res judicata. Now, we must also understand that there is a distinction between estoppel and waiver. Now, what is the difference between estoppel and waiver? Estoppel is a rule of evidence and does not form basis for instituting a suit. Waiver originates from contractual relationship and may give birth to cause of action. The knowledge of reality or truth is not a factor or essential condition for claiming estoppel, while in case of waiver, real facts or truth is known to both the parties. In some circumstances, the acquiescence amounts to estoppel. In case of waiver, some act or conduct is necessary together with acquiescence. Estoppel is used as defense and not cause for bringing a suit. Waiver may be cause to give rise a right. So that is the basic difference between estoppel and waiver. Now, having learned that, let us move on with section 116, which says estoppel of tenant and of licensee of person in possession. So no tenant of immovable property or person claiming through such tenant shall, during the continuance of the tenancy, be permitted to deny that the landlord of such tenant had at the beginning of the tenancy a title to such immovable property. So the tenant cannot challenge the title of the landlord when he himself has admitted that he is the tenant. He cannot challenge title of the landlord over such immovable property, and no person who came upon any immovable property by the license of the person in possession thereof shall be permitted to deny that such person had a title to such possession at time when such license was given. So the licensee cannot even challenge the title of the owner. So the tenants and the licensees are barred or stopped from challenging the right of ownership over an immovable property by the landlord or owner. Now, section 117 says estoppel of acceptor of bill of exchange, bailee, or licensee. It says no acceptor of a bill of exchange shall be permitted to deny that the drawer had authority to draw such bill or to endorse it. So the same thing happens here in the cases of bills of exchange. It says the acceptor of a bill of exchange cannot and will not be permitted to deny that the drawer had authority to draw such bill or to endorse it, nor shall any bailee or licensee be permitted to deny that his bailer or licenser had at the time when the bailment or license commenced authority to make such bailment or grant such license. So they will not be permitted to deny the facts. Now explanation 1 says the acceptor of a bill of exchange may deny that the bill was really drawn by the person by whom it purports to have been drawn. And explanation 2 says if a bailee delivers the goods bailed to a person other than the bailer, he may prove that such person had a right to them as against the bailer. So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.